are in listen-only mode.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to Lifetime Adoptions webinar for this evening. My name is Kim King. I'm one of the Adoptive Family Coordinators here at Lifetime. Also co-hosting tonight is Libby Murray, who is another one of our coordinators at Lifetime, and we have a very special guest that will be sharing her story with us. Della will be sharing the story of her adoption as she and her husband Tony adopted their precious baby girl just this year. So she's going to take us through that journey and share with us some of the details of how her adoption came together. So thank you everyone for joining us. We've got a large group with us tonight, so we appreciate all of you for taking the time to be with us, taking part of your evening, and being with us here at Lifetime to share, some of your thoughts or questions. You can type those in if you are on the webinar online, or you can always email your questions. If you have a question and you're joining us by phone, you can email kim@lifetimeadoption.com. If you're a new family that has not yet applied with Lifetime, we do have our free application online at lifetimeadoption.com. And if you are someone who needs to reach out and ask some questions about your adoption plans or about Lifetime, feel free to give us a call tomorrow morning. We will open at 8 a.m. Pacific time. The number is 530-432-7373. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Libby, would you like to give us a couple of housekeeping tips as far as how they can interact with us?
Absolutely. It's really easy to submit your questions tonight or to give us your feedback or comments. And as Della shares her story, if you want her to go into detail a little bit more, or if you need clarity, or if, we change topics and you still want us to go back to the original question, feel free to type in your comments, or even if you see a super cute picture of her baby or their family, you're welcome to interact with us and participate tonight by typing into the questions or chat box on your screen. Or if you're joining us by phone, you can always email, like Kim said earlier, you can email her or me, and my email is Libby, Libby, @lifetimeadoption.com, and Kim can be reached at kim@lifetimeadoption.com. And as those of you joining us online can see tonight, we've already begun sharing a photo, so just so that you can have a face with the voice. This is Della and baby Callie Grace, and her husband Tony here in the picture when they were at court for her adoption. So Della, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm really excited to be sharing on this end of the adoption journey, finally on the other side. I'm very excited.
Let's back up.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's always good just to start at what brought you to adoption. So how long did you and Tony think about adoption before you decided to actually jump in and pursue it?
Well, Tony is my second marriage. I have older kids from my first marriage of 20 years. So when we were married, we kind of both knew that having kids was kind of out of the question for us as far as physically being able to have kids. But we did realize that we both really, really wanted to have a family, even a large family. Tony is a pastor and a mentor, and he wants to be that for young children. So the first thing that we thought about was actually adopting older kids through Family and Children's Services. And, we had talked about it the entire time we dated. And then we were out one day and we picked up a magazine that had some information about adopting newborns, or, newborns and children of different ages. And, just kind of talked over and thought about it, and, what would it be like if we had a brand new baby? And then, maybe later adopted older children. And it had really never crossed my mind to start all over with a brand new baby, but my husband is younger than I am. He's only 30, so this is his first baby. And, I thought it would be really neat for him to experience the throwing up in poopy diapers and not getting to sleep. And so, we talked about it and prayed about it, and it really did become, we realized that was really what we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. And so I know that you and I spoke a little bit earlier about this, but you actually had gone, let me see if I remember right, but you had actually gone to your pastor even and asked about adopting or about adoption in general. Is that right? Did you guys seek others' opinions before you jumped in?
We did. When we first started, just like everybody out there, I'm sure, we had no idea to where to begin. So the obvious place to start was church. So, we did. We went to our pastor and we asked, what should we do? Where should we start? And, really there were no big answers there. I think that, everybody always hears and talks about adoption, but really knows where to get started at. So actually the magazine that we had picked up had, some numbers to call, and it was another adoption agency that we actually called just to, to get some answers. And their answers led me to do some investigating of my own, and I got online and just kind of, typed in, different things. Typed in African American adoption, and you guys were the only website that pulled up in the entire country for African American adoption. And so, that's kind of where we got started from. I gave you guys a call. Well, actually, no, filled out the questionnaire online, and somebody called me the next day, and it became a reality from there.
Wow. So you guys were pretty much on the same page right from the start, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, we actually started talking about adoption before we got married.
Okay.
We came to the realization that we wanted a large family. We wanted to get married and have a large family. So, all of this discussion, although it was just discussion, happened before we got married. And then after we got married, it just seemed like, the perfect time to get started. Didn't want to wait at all. And so, that's another thing that kind of changed me from the agency that we were looking at in the magazine. You have to be married a specific amount of years before you apply with them. So, of course, then my search turned to, do you have to be married for, 5 years before you actually begin to adopt? And of course, we found the answer was no. So, that was great because we had only been married a year when we first started our application.
So, Della, now when you guys were first starting out, was there anything that was on your mind that, were you just full steam ahead, or did you have any concerns or hesitations? Like, I know most families wonder about their own ages, are they too old or too young, or things like that.
Oh,
did you guys?
Absolutely. Especially me. I'm 40, so, at the time I was 38 when we first started thinking about adopting, and my husband is 10 years younger than me. So, he's in the right place to start and having a baby. And I wondered if, if agencies or if people would look at, and especially during the home study, would look at, maybe I was too old to start adopting or start the process. And, and of course there were a lot of concerns there, which later were put to rest by my home study social worker. We have a great home study social worker, and basically she said she's seen people of all ages adopt children, and age is not normally a factor as long as you're in good physical health, and you pass all of your tests that you have to have done for your home study. So that was kind of scary at first.
So now, as you decided that you were interested in adopting an infant, as you started your research, were there any other concerns, like what were your thoughts about, getting to know a birth mom? What were your thoughts about that as you first started researching everything?
Well, at first, and I'm going to go ahead and admit, one of my downfalls in life as a Christian woman is I am a little bit controlling. So my first thought was I definitely wanted to have a closed adoption. I didn't want, anybody visiting, sharing any pictures. I didn't want anybody to tell me, what I could do with my child. And, that kind of, I think when you start thinking about open adoption, you kind of think, you would have a person intruding. But as I, got to go through our website at Lifetime and read materials and learn about open adoption, I realized that, as my daughter's growing up, I do want to be able to, to tell her where she comes from, to be able to introduce her to her birth mom if she wanted to be introduced, and, just have some insight about the birth mom. And so I did actually start looking into open adoption, and then it was a back and forth thing that we prayed about and thought about a lot. And of course different people had different opinions, mother-in-laws and things like that had different opinions. Oh, you don't want an open adoption, or yes you do. And in the time, at that time, we did actually decide that we would like to know more information about our birth mom and get to know her if we possibly could. So open adoption ended up being what we really wanted to do.
Now you mentioned a little bit about family, and we had a question from Jamelia. How did you introduce the idea of adoption to your family, and was there any backlash?
Well, I personally have older children. Three of my children are grown. I have a 24-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 21-year-old. My two boys, the 21 and the 24-year-old guys, are in the military. And my daughter, who is 22, is graduating from university this year. So they were not against adopting. They weren't sure they understood why I wanted to adopt, because I always tell them how tired I am after raising them. But they were, they were absolutely happy for me. I think things for us moved a little quickly because we did, once Tony and I got married, we did decide to adopt right away. And so, introducing them to having a new sibling was, they were really happy for us, but they were kind of like, Mom, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do it? And, of course, Tony's parents and family were 100% behind him, because he has, since he was born, he knew he wasn't going to be able to have children. So, in some way, shape, or form, his dream had always been to marry someone who could maybe be inseminated or something like that. And of course that wasn't going to happen with me, with my age and history. I'd had a hysterectomy. So adoption was the next step. I don't think that anybody really thought that it was just going to happen as quickly as it did. And then, like I said, I think a lot of people just don't know, where you get started with that. I mean, how do you know you're going to adopt, and where are you going to adopt from, and things like that. So it was new to all of us, but we have had the best support and prayer and just the greatest group of people behind us since the very beginning.
Now, as an African-American couple, and I mean, we just took the poll, and I think it said something like 47% of our attendees tonight are African-American. Was there anything specifically related to your background that you felt impacted, your exploration, or the type of support that your family gave, or anything like that? I mean, was there anything that you felt was different with your adoption journey that was directly related to your race?
Well, I feel like that maybe we didn't have a lot of information up front. I kind of felt a little bit alone in investigating. I think both in my and Tony's upbringing and background, we just didn't have a whole lot of information about adoption. You just didn't hear about a lot of people being adopted, and that did prompt me to start doing a little bit of investigation on my own. I talked to my personal gynecologist and, my pediatrician, my kid's pediatrician, and, kind of just started asking questions to medical professionals I asked, why do we not see a lot of adoption in African American families? And some of the answers I got back were, things like African American families don't seek adoption as much because, if there is someone who has a child that they can't raise, usually that child's raised within the family. So that's a trend, and just different things that my gynecologist told me about, fertility at a young age in African American women that's a little bit different from Caucasian women. It was an amazing study that we did, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things.
Yeah, wow.
And that's such a good point, too, and I know that we will talk more about this, although I don't know that we need to hold off pointing this out, but one of the reasons that Callie's birth mother felt so comfortable with you was because she had searched for a while for African American couples hoping to adopt, right?
Right. She said she had actually been in contact with, I think she said 5 or 6 different adoption agencies before she found Lifetime, and all of the information that she was sent and all of the pamphlets that she were sent. Nobody had any African American couples for her to adopt, and she really wanted her baby to be raised by an African American family. So again, just like my search, typing in African American adoption, the only thing that comes up is Lifetime adoption agency.
Right. Well, and I think that's such a good testament to just how any birth mom can have a say over who adopts her baby, and that in having that say, whether it's about a racial preference or a religious preference, or whether she wants a 2-parent home or a single-parent home or a stay-at-home parent or 2 working parents, all of these dynamics add up to it completely giving her control over what happens to her child. And I think any woman, I've heard from women of all backgrounds who call Lifetime and share, I called a couple other places and they only had 2 people for me to choose from. And that's not much of a choice, until you see, okay, here's, at least 6 families or a dozen families that I can really feel like these are the right people for my baby. So that's
right, and it's really important for women to know that they do have that choice, because I think that just in our background, like I said, you just don't realize that you have the choice. That I had my oldest son at a very young age, and I don't think that anyone told me, hey, you could put your child up for adoption, or you can choose to do this or that. I just don't think those options are presented to us as a community sometimes.
I just launched a poll here just to feel our audience out about if they've thought about adopting a child of African American background. So if you're online, you can look at your screen and answer that.
It looks like so far the majority is considering adopting an African American child. So it's actually the percentage of families that are with us tonight that are open to adopting or considering adopting an African American child. It's like twice as much as the amount of families that said that they were African American themselves. So this is great to see how many families, hearts are open to an interracial adoption as well. We want to get into your story of how you met your birth mom and everything, or your child's birth mom, that is. But before we do, just one quick question that came in from Daniela. She said that my husband is concerned about not loving an adopted child as much as our biological child. Can you comment on this concern?
Oh, absolutely, Daniela. Actually, we had this conversation yesterday, and you're not going to believe me, but we were sitting in the living room yesterday just staring at Callie Grace, which is what we've done since the first day that she got here. And Tony not having children and me having 4 children, we're coming from 2 very different perspectives. There's I never imagined that I could love somebody as much as I love her that didn't come out of my own body. I didn't know what to expect from it, but she absolutely feels like she's just our child. And, you know, we actually have our last home study coming up, and it had totally slipped our mind because it just feels so natural for her to be here. It doesn't, you know, the fact that, you know, we're still in the process for the post studies and everything, and kind of just slips your mind because she's part of your family now, and it's just absolute love. There's just no way that you could love anybody any more, any less, whether they come out of your body. And that was something learned for me, and it was something learned for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We had another great question, and I know
that's one of my favorite pictures right there on the screen.
Oh my goodness, she is so cute, Della. If you're joining us, if you're joining us by phone, you're missing out on some super cute photos of this little girl. Della, there was a question that just came in that I know.
We just got back from St. Louis in that picture. Okay.
And so that's where she was born, was St. Louis?
She was born in St. Louis, and we were there for about 3 weeks because our birth mom was a little late. Her due date went past, so we were there for about 3 weeks, and this was her first day home. We were showing her room.
Oh, cute.
That's our favorite picture of her.
Now, you had talked with me earlier about how you actually had an adoption group that you were a part of. Now, how did you find that adoption group?
A lot of searching, and again, there aren't very many, and so I'm really thinking about forming one. We live here in Georgia, and the biggest group here in Georgia is Atlanta Mommies, AtlantaAreaMommies.com, and they have subgroups. Atlanta Area Mommies have subgroups, kids with disabilities, and you know, different kids with different things, and they actually have an adoption subgroup. So I don't think it's very big, and I haven't had the opportunity to go yet to meet anyone. They meet once a month, and I missed this month's meeting. We had baby shots this month, but I really am going to look into it. But again, it was really hard to find you know, adoption groups. And the reason that I want one is not so much, you know, right now while she's little, not too worried because, you know, diapers and formula, everything's about standard. But I really want to have a play group for her when she's between the ages of 4 and 8, you know, just so she'll have some peers that are also adopted. And, you know, I wanted to talk to other parents about how they speak to their young children about adoption, because that is going to be absolutely new for me.
So now take us back to the beginning of when you started your program with Lifetime. You know, you came into our program, I would say, once you found us, as I recall, it was pretty quick that you guys hopped right into the program. Tell us what happened next.
Well, it was January 2011 when we first signed on, and, you know, everything is a step-by-step process, and, you know, it was very easy. I think the easiest part of our adoption was probably that first 3 to 6 months, because there's so much to do. And, you know, you guys tell us, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this in order, and, you know, we have something to do the entire time. So, you know, that was probably the best part, just, you know, getting to speak with everyone there, and you know, get everything set up, and getting our pictures taken. I think the hardest part was getting action photos for for our profiles, because we didn't have very many. We came to find out, you know, but we got through that process, and then the home study process. Of course, takes a couple of months, and that's something that was brand new and a little bit scary, because we didn't know what to expect. And, you know, of course, now that it's over, look back and think about, you know, like I said, our social worker is the greatest thing ever. She's actually a personal friend now that our adoption is over. She lives here locally, and she's as in love with Kelly Grace as we are. So she was wonderful, and the whole home study process was really great. So I think the worst thing about it is the initial fear, because you don't know what to expect. You know, you have someone coming into your house judging you, or you know, you think they're looking at how dirty or how clean your house is, and you know, so that was probably the best part, with those first 6 months when you have something to do. And then after everything's done and settles down and quiet, then, you know, that's kind of when the waiting period starts, and that's when it gets a little bit tougher.
Right. And so how did you, we have a lot of families, you know, and this is a good time, too, to speak on the fact that our audience tonight is mixed. You know, there are many of you who are currently waiting to adopt. You know, you've already taken that step to begin that path towards your future child. And then there are other people joining us tonight who are still trying to decide if adoption is the right path for them to even begin. And then there are some in the middle who want to adopt, but they're trying to decide how to do that, when to start, and, you know, who's going to help them. And so, but I know that when it comes to adopting, one of the things that most people hear about early on is the wait, you know. So I know that that was a big challenge for you, Della, and that you and I we spoke about it a little bit earlier, and that's near and dear to your heart to talk about, now, like you said earlier, now that you're on the other side, to look back on that waiting time when it was so hard. Yeah. You know, and many people might even say too, Della, like, well, gosh, you already had children before, you know, why was the wait so hard this time? But what was that like for you, and how did you cope with it?
Well, you know, I really am, you know, I'm a woman of faith, and, you know, I hope everybody listening, you know, whoever is, this will speak to you. When we decided to have Kelly Grace, you know, the first thing you have to do for those who are still trying to decide and figure out if it's the right thing for you is pray about it and make sure that it's the right thing for you. And then once it is, you have to take that step of faith, just telling God what you need and then leaving it in His hands. And I think in this case for me, and it wasn't so much a challenge for Tony, he was as cool as a cucumber, and it kind of made me mad sometimes. He's like, yeah, she'll be here when she gets here. I was like, what do you mean she'll be here when she gets here? So, you know, I think what it was for me, it was God tested my faith, and you know, that's why it's a very personal journey. So basically, you know, what I would tell everybody is, once you decide what you're going to do, you know, once it has come to you and God decides that this is what you're supposed to do, you just let Him know what you need, and then you just have to have faith. I really think that the day that we prayed for Kelly Grace, we already knew her name. We knew we wanted a girl. We knew we wanted her to be healthy and African American, and that was it. I think that day, you know, God decided that she was going to be born in St. Louis, Missouri in July 2012, and, you know, 110-degree weather. You know, He had already decided all of that. But along the way, you know, I wanted it to be this time, you know, the middle of the summer in 2011, and I wanted it to be, you know, this time and that time, and, you know, we can't get through another Christmas without her, and we can't do this without her, and we want her to be born in Texas, no one wanted her to be born in Georgia, and, you know, things had already been decided, and basically you just have to have faith that the moment that it is that your child is created, she's already created or he's already created, and, you know, we just have to wait for her to get here. And it was really hard for me personally, but now that I'm where I am, I look back and I think about, we did have one match that didn't work out for us, and I think to myself, what if that had worked out? It was a couple of months after we had signed with you guys. And the baby was going to be born here in Georgia, and it just didn't work out, and she wouldn't have been Kelly Grace. And, you know, I think about that all the time now.
And so you said that it was July of this year that you got the call about her birth mother?
Well, I got the call in May of this year, right after Mother's Day, I think that the reason that I got the call was because I was at a point in my journey, in my weight, that I really did let go and let God take care of things. We had initially, I don't know if I had even spoken with you guys about this, but we had initially had her gender on our preference sheet as a girl. We wanted a girl. And we decided, just one day it came to us. We were sitting and talking and praying, and I'm sure Tony was trying to calm me down and let me know that everything was okay. And we had decided that we were going to change the gender to either, because we felt like that we were taking almost too much control by just, by having the gender chosen there. So we changed it to either, and as soon as we changed it to either, we got the call probably, I would say, not even 2 or 3 weeks later. And my birth mom did not know what she was having. She just, she spoke with me. She didn't know what she was having yet. She wasn't going to have her ultrasound to find out until a month later. But it just felt so right, it didn't matter. And when she had her ultrasound and she texted me, it's a girl, we were ecstatic. We had an It's a Girl party. It was the greatest thing ever. So,
Wow.
I mean, it was just like going to an ultrasound and finding out.
That's amazing to think that that window of opportunity for you to even get shown to that birth mom depended on you guys finally saying, you know what, let's just open on gender, and then letting Lifetime know in the nick of time to be able to present you to that birth mom.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
And just everything that's happened is amazing. Absolutely.
Well, and when you guys started out and you were specifying that you were hoping for a girl, did you talk about, well, it might take a little bit longer. We have to be okay with that reality, to just wait for just the right one that's actually a girl.
Right.
Right,
and again, we had, I fault myself kind of, because we definitely wanted a girl, and we definitely knew that it was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen because just too many things in our lives fell into place just at the right time for the adoption to even take place, and so we knew it was going to happen. But again, I really felt like by having our preference sheet say girl, we were having faith but putting a stipulation on it at the same time. So, I really feel like when we opened up to, we're just going to let go and just wait and see exactly when and where and how this baby girl is going to be born. And when we did, and we actually said that prayer and let it go, that is when everything happened.
Mm-hmm. And so we had this question come in too. I think this is a good time to bring it up because you are an African American couple. You were hoping to adopt an African American baby. Had you ever heard statistics or rumors or stereotypes or just any advice regarding the fact that there are a lot of adoption agencies that believe African American birth mothers have a higher chance of changing their mind at the last minute? Did that ever cross your mind at all?
I'd heard it. I actually had heard that rumor before, and I think that the reason, or I looked into it. The reason was because I don't think a lot of African American mothers, birth moms, had considered adoption before, and it's kind of I think it's kind of new. And so, changing, so that person changing their mind, that would be scary for me, whether, no matter what the race of the birth mom at all, because I do know that birth moms can change their mind. And, and then we had to think about, what was best for the baby if the birth mom did change her mind, like the birth mom did in one of our, in that first match. We had to actually learn from that and pray about that and think, how great is it that this mom is going to go ahead and raise her baby, and change it from, us being, sad about it and being happy about it for that family.
Right.
But yeah, I think one of the biggest statistics that I had looked into it is that there are quite a few African American moms that are putting babies up for adoption, but there aren't very many African American couples that are adopting right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just that kind of made me think that it was going to happen a lot faster than it did. And I think that just having that in my head didn't help me very much as far as the wait went. And so now that we look at it, and it just really wasn't that long. It did not take that long for her to get here. Mm-hmm. When you're pregnant, you actually have that measure of time. That this baby is going to be born exactly when your 9 months or your 40 weeks of being pregnant is over. And I think just not knowing is what kind of keeps us on edge during the wait.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Just not knowing. And you spoke earlier about your faith pulling you through that time when you were just sort of chewing at your nails, waiting to find out, where's this leading us? Where's this going? Looking back, are there things that because like I read something today that said, remember, worry does not change the outcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Are there things in hindsight that you look back and think, oh man, I wish I would have done this, or that you would tell other parents?
I wish I wouldn't have done. Yeah, there's some things I probably wouldn't have done. I'll tell you, probably right after the home study is done, and like I said, it takes so much energy to get your home study done and get your profiles done and everything. That first 6 months goes by pretty quick, because you have all of the stuff to do, and we were both working. But I think one of the things that I did that I would definitely change is you have to have your energy invested in something else once you're done with all of the paperwork and all of the doctor's appointments and everything that you have to do to get your home study passed. That was Callie's court outfit.
Oh my gosh, she's so cute.
Her court outfit. So one of the first things that you have to remember is that you have to invest your energy somewhere, and it has to be something besides work and buying baby clothes, because that's what I do. I'd invest my energy in buying baby clothes and just imagining her wearing this or wearing that, and dedicated myself to actually going to our website every day and kind of looking through the birth mom stories. And trying to figure out exactly which birth mom was going to be mine and what state she was going to be coming from. And I think doing that was not the thing to do. Another thing that I did that I wish I had not done was going through my peers' profiles and looking and seeing is there something I should be doing on my profile that's better. That's better, something I should change, something we should be doing that's going to make me comparable to, my peer that just adopted. So things like that I think were negative things that I did that I wish I hadn't. And one of the webinars actually turned me around. It was one of the very last webinars that I listened to before Callie Grace got here. It was the one, and I don't remember her name. I don't remember her name, but she was sending you guys cake.
Oh, yeah. I remember this.
That was the webinar I listened to.
I forget who that was, but she said she was like mad, and then she thought, what, I'm going to send them cake.
That was Amy.
Yeah,
that was Amy
that?
Around Mother's Day. Yes, Mother's Day.
Amy. Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
Right before you
That's
spoke
the last
with
webinar.
Melissa. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. That's the last one I listened to before I spoke with Melissa. And I remember that, and we still joke about it today, because I don't remember what was going on, and Tony was like, well, we could send a cake. We can get him a cake and send him a cake. But, that was the funniest thing ever. And then we thought about her story, and, and she had a long wait, and, and she was thinking the same way, we were. What are we doing wrong? Do we need to change something? what's not working out, and it really made me not feel good, because I know that she didn't feel good during the time, but it made me feel, equal, that one of my peers was kind of going through the same feelings that I was feeling.
Like
So it didn't make
validation.
me feel like a weirdo. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, she's mailing cakes. I could be mailing cookies.
Well, and for those of you on the call who have not heard that webinar, or maybe you're not part of Lifetime's program, so you don't know what we're even talking about, but Amy was one of Lifetime's adoptive parents, and she came on this spring around Mother's Day to talk about her story because she had a longer than usual wait and some definite ups and downs. And actually what's funny about the story, just for a little history, is that I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Della, but she said she sent a cake because she was trying to figure out, well, okay, if we're nice, does that change anything? And then she even followed up with, and then later she said, and then I just started being mean because I figured, well, sending them a cake didn't change any of the outcome. And it really boiled down to that it was all leading in the same direction. So
Exactly.
cake is better than mean.
We thought, if we're really nice, if we're really nice and send some cake, then maybe we'll get matched faster. And then, and then she said she called and she was upset on the phone, and maybe that would work. But I mean, just listening to her story, that was funny, but it really, it really opened up my heart, and it made me realize that instead of, woe is me, I needed to pray for my peers, because, there were other adoptive parents that have been waiting longer than I have, and and you never know what someone else is going through. You just look at yourself and, where's my baby, and she needs to be wearing these summer clothes right now, and, So I definitely, we changed our prayers. We started praying for our peers, and, praying, we always pray for the birth mothers, but I had never thought to pray for other people who were waiting, because they might have had just a longer, tougher time than I did.
That to me is what I see so often as one of the bigger pictures, that it seems like God leads people to adoption, not just because he wants them to be a blessing for a child and to be blessed by adoption, but also because maybe you turn into a prayer warrior for people you never even thought needed prayer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I want to make sure we talk too, because I know that for many families of all racial backgrounds, a lot of them wonder, well, what do I expect when I talk to my child's birth mother? That's what I'm waiting for, that's what I'm praying for, is that moment, but I'm also scared to death about that moment. And you met with Kalia's birth mother before she was born, is that right?
That's right, Melissa, and I am going to say to my peers out there, that is definitely something else that's very nerve-wracking, and because as people, we never know what that birth mom is going through. We never know what her expectation of you is. But I will tell you that Melissa told me that she was just as scared to speak to me as I was to her. That's the first thing that we got off the table. Are you nervous? Yes, I'm nervous too. And so that kind of cleared the air. That she was as nervous to talk to me as I was to speak with her. And I got to talk to her, and I really feel like I wanted to be, and again, this is where me not being able to control everything all the time came in, because I wanted to be for my birth mom. I wanted to be a mentor. I wanted to be someone who, if she had any questions about her pregnancy, she would come to. I am a doula, so I do a lot of, I used to, a long time ago, helped with a lot of births, so had a lot of background as far as pregnancy and birth went. So I really wanted to be that for my birth mom. And I actually got matched with someone who just really did not want to talk very much. So I'm a talker, and she was not. So I actually felt like I was talking her to death sometimes. But, I really found out that it wasn't really that I was talking too much. She just didn't talk very much, and she was younger, so she liked to text. She didn't like to talk on the phone. So sometimes I would call her, and she would text me back, "Hey, what's up?" And so we'd have these conversations in text. Yeah. So we'd have all of these text conversations and stuff.
Mm-hmm. When you met her over the phone, right?
Mm-hmm. We met over the phone, and we talked for a couple of months. See, that was in May, and her due date was actually supposed to be July 1st. So we texted back and forth all of June, and we planned to be in Missouri by June 27th, so we'd have 27, 28, 29 to get to know her and, take her out to dinner and, just so that if she had any questions in person, I said, my thought was in person, surely she'll talk to me some more, but that wasn't the case. But we got to meet her in person finally on June 28th and take her and her little boy out to dinner and, kind of get to know her a little better.
Mm-hmm. So can you share with us a little bit, you said that she wasn't much of a talker, but what else was she like, or, was there anything she shared with you that, was revealing, like why she chose you or
why she chose
about her
adoption?
Circumstances?
Do you know why she chose adoption?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. One of the things that I came away with, again, in awe, you always have this, I personally have always thought of women who are putting their babies up for adoption, maybe being younger, maybe being in school, and, not being able to provide for their babies. I've always pictured someone as younger. Melissa was very intelligent. She's a very smart person. She knew, because she already had a child, her little boy was 4, and she was 24. So she was very smart. She knew exactly what she wanted. She knew that she wanted her baby to live in Georgia and not in St. Louis, where she was from. She knew she wanted African American parents. She knew exactly what she wanted. She's very smart and very meticulous about what she wanted. Mm-hmm. And that was, I was very glad of that. She wasn't, I'm not sure, and I'm looking into it, and I'm kind of scared. She just knew that she wanted a better life for her baby, and that right now she couldn't provide it for her, and she knew she wasn't going to, have an abortion or anything like that, and she just was very. To me, she was just very educated about what she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I want to revisit a little bit because I know that we talked about when you spoke, you were really nervous to speak with Melissa. How did you guys, since she was a little bit more distant during that time, how did you decide that you were going to meet before the birth?
I kind of, just really, she would ask me what I wanted to do, and I told her, Melissa, it's what you want to do. We are here to do what you want to do, and she really, was just all about, hey, what do you guys want to do? When do you want to meet me? When do you want to come? When are you going to come? She wasn't really sure about what we wanted, and she was really focused on what we wanted, and I really tried to reassure her, that it was all about excuse me, it was all about when and where she wanted to meet, and I reassured her that she was in control, and we would do anything we could to help her. So it was kind of, I was a little nervous at first to talk to her, but I did realize that she still did have a very young mentality, a young woman, and fortunate for me, I have my, 24, 22, and 21-year-olds, so I kind of know how to, how to kind of get an answer out of you. So, I let her know that, that we could come earlier and we could meet you, and, I asked her, hey, where's your favorite restaurant? What do you like to eat? you know, and her favorite restaurant happened to be Olive Garden, you know, and so that was the conversation we spun off. Yeah, I love Olive Garden. Why don't we come down there and we can take you out to dinner? And, you know, it was kind of very much a back and forth prompting, but, you know, we finally agreed on a time when we come down, and so pretty much as far as the trip up there, I planned it, and, you know, she'd ask, hey, when are you guys coming? And, you know, I planned the trip for the most part. And then, of course, once we got up there, Miss Callie decided she wasn't going to be born in 110-degree weather. So we kind of had to hang out for a while for 10 days, just 10 days overdue.
Wow.
She had to be induced, and
Wow.
we were fortunate enough to get to take her. You know, we picked her up from her apartment and took her to the hospital for her induction. And unfortunately, she didn't have any support. So I got to be the person I wanted to be, and I got to be in the induction and in the birth with her. So I was really excited about that. Got to see my baby girl born.
Oh, wow.
Now, I know sometimes families wonder how they're going to feel because at the point when they're in the beginning and they're not matched yet, they don't know anything about the birth mom or her personality or anything, so they imagine that they're going to feel really awkward and uncomfortable because this is going to be a stranger. But it sounds to me like it started off at a good pace with the first phone call and then the texting and then the visit, that you guys were able to kind of develop a relationship before you ever even got to the birth.
Absolutely. Yeah, what I would say to my peers, to my other adoptive parents, is that, you know, you have to realize that this person, for some reason, whatever reason it is, picked you out. For their, you know, they're seeking to find out more about you because they picked you out for some reason. I think that, you know, not only was Melissa looking for an African American family, I really think that I look like somebody in her family because Callie Grace looks so much like me. It's amazing. So, you know, I may look like her mom or her aunt. I don't know who I look like. But for some reason, you know, that birth mom, you know, picked your profile for a reason. So they want to develop a relationship with you. And then from there, it's just like any other relationship. You know, you want to know about her as much as she wants to know about you. And she's going to be entrusting you to, you know, to raise her little person for the rest of their life. So, I mean, it's a pretty big, I guess it's the biggest responsibility and relationship you may ever have, you know, next to marriage. So, yeah, you know, I definitely take it, you know, as an honor that she picked us and trusted us with her little girl.
And so do you still keep in touch with her now? How did you leave things with her?
Well, I really feel like we bonded a lot. We actually got to bond a little more than Tony and Melissa did because I was there for the induction, which was, you know, 48 hours long. I was there for the birth, and in Missouri you have to stay in the hospital for 48 hours after the baby's born, and I slept in the room with them, you know, and you know, she held the baby and you know, cried a little bit, and you know, we sat up and we talked together. So we did get to bond, but I really did in an early on, I realized that she wasn't going to want to stay in touch very much afterwards, just from some of the comments and questions that she had. Like she asked when we were going to tell Callie that she was adopted, and you know, when I mentioned that we were going to tell Callie from the beginning, you know, that she was adopted, she said, well, I thought that you tell a baby that they're adopted when they were grown up. You know, again, you know, not too much information or, you know, education about open adoption, I'm sure, has been given throughout life. So, you know, we explained to her how it was going to be from the very beginning, and you know, she's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to, you know, if I want her to know about me so early. You know, and I did let her know that, you know, that she would only know good things about her. You know, and we would tell her how much she loved her, and you know, how hard it was to make a decision like putting your baby up for adoption. You know, I definitely feel like she understands that we're going to do a good job in letting her know, everything that happened. But I don't know if she's feels like she's ready to be a part of it. Yeah, I think she's just distancing herself just a little bit so that she can maybe get over the pain of having to give the baby out.
Wow. Yeah. So you're
Now,
open
what was
if she
your
comes
initial
back in. Like if she comes in the picture a
Yeah.
year from now and says, I've just been thinking about you. I want to know how you guys are doing. Could you send me photos? Are you open when she's
Oh,
ready?
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Right.
How does
That's what
Tony
I
feel
decided
about
we
that?
had to do. He's exactly the same, and he's always the voice of reason. He was like, give her time. She'll come back around when she wants to, because, the first couple of weeks I was like, do you think we should text her? Should I call her? Should I send her a picture? Because we're watching this amazing little girl grow up, and, definitely wanted her to see some pictures and everything. So basically what I did is set up an email that's just for her, and I keep pictures and stories and things in that email, so when she's ready to look at it, she can. So she can keep in touch that way anonymously if she wants to, and then of course, she could give me a call now or a year from now, and we'd be happy to share with her.
That's good.
Oh, so you mean you set up an email account that you email things to, and she also knows how to get into it, or she could know how to have that username and password and log in and see all the emails that you've sent over the period of time.
Right.
That's
So
really
she'll have
creative.
all of those pictures and everything. Absolutely, because I want her to be as anonymous as she wants to be. Because towards the end there was a problem with texting and sending pictures over the phone. Apparently somebody else was looking in her phone, and she felt like people were invading her privacy. So we kind of had to back away from texting even after we got back from St. Louis.
Yeah, it's a really personal decision, for a birth mom to. A lot of times they want to keep it a little bit more quiet,
right.
Which is why, if any of you listening are wondering, that's why we keep our phone number anonymous for the most part when we're making outgoing calls, just for that reason, that it can be kind of an invasion of privacy for someone to see that Lifetime Adoption is calling this pregnant woman,
Right.
So. I think that's interesting.
And it was kind of a hard thing to. It was kind of hard for me to back up a little bit, because as I saw, she didn't have maybe as much support as I would have liked, friends or family. I kind of wanted to be that support, but I did let her know that I would always be here if she did need anything, or if she needed to talk, or just anything at all.
What about any of her extended family? Have you? Like when you guys were in Missouri and everything, did any of her relatives come around?
No.
Wow,
No,
she was alone.
She was. That's why I was really glad to have been able to be there, or that she allowed me to be in the room with her when she had the baby, because no one was there with her. She lives with her mom, and she has the 4-year-old little boy. So I'm assuming that her little boy was with her mom while she was at the hospital. So that may have been why they weren't there. And they were using transit, mass transit, and they were riding the bus and things like that. So I don't know the situation, but there wasn't anybody there actually when the entire time we were there.
Now, Della, what about the birth father in this adoption plan?
He is absolutely absent. He was somebody that she met casually, and she didn't want to have him involved at all.
So we had
my understanding.
I was just going to ask you, that makes us wonder about like the legal process and everything. We had some families wondering how you were able to choose an attorney. I mean, did you end up using an attorney in your state, or was it an attorney in her state? How did that work?
Well, that's, something else brand new that we got to learn about. Through the entire process, I always thought that we would need an adoption attorney in our state and the state that we would be adopting in. Every single state is different, and, every single state. So, you definitely want to, look into adoption attorneys in your state, but then realize that your whole plan could change in the blink of an eye, no matter where the baby, depending on where the baby's coming from. So in our case, in Missouri, you don't need an adoption attorney from the state we're in, which is Georgia, because they represent mom, they represent you, and they represent the baby. There's 3 different entities, but that's the way their adoption lawyers are set up. They represent all 3. And, and different states have different times as far as the finalization and different rules about how long you have to wait or how many post-studies you have to have in, before the adoption is final. So, I didn't realize how different each state is as far as the laws are for the finalization of adoption. But we had an excellent adoption attorneys. They were wonderful. We found them on the I can't remember what
was it the
called,
Quad A site?
Right, the adoption. The Adoption Lawyers Association.
American Academy of Adoption Attorneys.
American. There we go. Exactly. So that's
I believe it's a .org. I haven't been there myself in a while.
It is. It's a .org, and there were actually quite a few adoption attorneys in the academy for Missouri, and we went through and spoke with each one. And the third one that I spoke to happened to be Busher and White, who we used, and just. I'm a people person. Just by the way that we spoke with each other is what attracted me to them. They were just very personable, and it was just like talking to Lifetime. They were very personable and seemed very interested in us as a as a family and not as just a client. So they were really great. And one of the best things about them that I think is very rare, and I don't think I've heard it from any other adoption that I've heard of, is that they provide so much intimacy after the adoption or during the wait, before you go to court, and ICPC, which is when the states are deciding how long you have to wait before you get to go home. They actually had an apartment set up for their adopted parents to go to wait there, because after being in hotels and sleeping in the hospital, the last thing that you want to do is be in a hotel with your baby for however many days before ICPC. And I just thought that was the greatest thing ever. They had an on-call pediatrician, which in our case we actually had to use because Callie had a heart murmur, and that being in that apartment, just having a kitchen and bathrooms, and we had actually taken our 16-year-old daughter with us, and so it was really, really great. So they were the best attorneys ever.
So now, when you got set to travel home, did you drive or did you guys fly home?
We drove because I'm a germphobe, and I just couldn't imagine having my baby.
One of our families was asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We had planned if we had to go farther, like if we had to go to California, we'd fly there and rent a car and drive back. I just
take your time coming home. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So now, when you got home, then how did you, what's the first thing you did when you got home?
Well, first thing we did was, we had, my sister was here, my sister lives here in Georgia, so she was here, the very immediate family got to meet the baby. So it was my sister and her kids, and of course my kids were here, and Tony's mom and his little brother. And so, the immediate family got to meet, and then we basically tried to get some sleep for the next couple of days because it was a long trip, and got into our own little, wake up every 3 hours rhythm, and Luckily, we work for a company that allows 3 months of baby leave, so today was actually Tony's first day going back to work. Callie's 3 years old. So it was really nice.
That's great. 3 months to be as a new family. That's awesome.
Absolutely. And it's really great because I think Dad's just started getting baby leave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Della, we've had several people, even a few people from Georgia tonight say, I live in Georgia too. And I know that you were gracious enough earlier to talk with Kim and I about your availability to answer questions for families. And so if any of you on the call are thinking, I want to know about that group Della talked about earlier, or the attorney she worked with, or just learn more about what she's learned about adoption or African American adoptions, or just anything you've heard tonight and you think that Della could help you with that, I know that her heart is passionate about sharing with you what she's learned, and you can we can help you connect with Della one-on-one if you write to Kim. Email her at Kim, K-I-M, at lifetimeadoption.com. Because we've covered a lot of bases tonight. You know, Della,
absolutely. Yeah, I would be happy to talk to anybody.
You know, we've gone over our hour even, and I feel like we could probably even keep talking, but I don't want to take advantage of Kalia's sleeping.
Well, actually, her aunt came over to take care of her specifically, so we have her. She actually woke up a little while ago, so everybody loves her. So you know, they absolutely love taking care of her.
Well, you know what? Because I know how excited you were to come on tonight and share your story. You know, if there was one thing or maybe two things that you wanted to make sure our audience heard tonight from you, whether they're waiting to adopt or they're trying to decide if they need to take that leap of faith and just start, you know, what's on your heart tonight that you want to make sure that these peers of yours know?
Well, you know, for my peers here in Georgia, you know, I definitely wanted to recommend for your home study going to Department of Family and Children Services, DFACS. They do an excellent job. They not only do home studies for foster parents, but they also do for adopted parents. And, you know, they're very thorough, and they walk you through it, and it's a great group of people. You know, and we did not, that was one of the things that were kind of up in the air for us, because you kind of have to find your own group to do your home study. So, you know, that's one thing that I would tell my peers that live here in Georgia. And, you know, and like I said, really, adoption journey is definitely a leap of faith, and, you know, you have to hold fast to that faith, and definitely pray about every single step, every step of the way, and just be patient, because it's a journey just like anything else. You know, there's like I was saying, there's a 40-week time limit on when you're pregnant, and you know, just not knowing exactly when your baby will be here is sometimes a little bit nerve-wracking, but I absolutely believe that the moment that that you know that you're going to adopt, your baby is already in God's heart, and it's already being created somewhere. So, you know, just definitely know that it's going to happen. And I do want everybody to know that they're absolutely with the very, very best facilitators on earth. Lifetime has just been wonderful for us. Everybody I've ever talked to in your office has always been just wonderful to talk to, wonderful to you know, to listen when people are boo-hooing. You know, just, you know, you guys really got us through it, and, you know, there's no way we could ever repay you. I was reading earlier that we were looking at, you know, about how people may look at the cost of adoption, and, you know, we were actually talking about it with someone we were doing an interview with, and if you really think about it, as badly as we all want to have our children, the cost of adoption is no more than buying a car. It really isn't, and it ends up being, this person that you're investing in and creating a wonderful life for. We really, really feel like that God gave us Kelly Grace because she's going to do great things, and that we are going to be able to help other people get to adoption. And for my African American peers, definitely spread the word about everything that you learn, because learning things and then keeping it to yourself is not good, because there's just a lot of stuff that people want to know. I just really wish I had other peers to talk to while I was going through the adoption process, so I do want to be that person.
Good point. Well, and I know, too, as you were saying that, Della, it even made me think about, if you're an adoptive family, and even more so if you're an African American family, to talk about your plans, because not all women of all backgrounds in this country know that they have the same option to choose open adoption for their baby. And so just by you being available to adopt, you will educate everyone who's thinking about adoption, be it from the adoptive parent point of view or the birth mother point of view. And this goes for anyone of any background, any community, that if you're waiting to adopt, you are showing birth parents and just the general public, people who are watching you, that there are amazing people who want to adopt, and it's not like the media drama stories you see. These are normal, everyday families who just want to grow through adoption, and they want to be sincere about their hearts for a child's birth mother. So like Della said, I think that was great advice. Talk about it, because you're only going to promote greater awareness and bring more birth mothers to the option so they can decide for themselves, but also help other parents who want to adopt.
Right. And I was telling Libby and earlier that we actually, since we have adopted, and really sometimes people just want to see that it's possible. And, in our peer group at work and at church and just different people we know, we have at least 5 different couples right now that want to know how to get started and what do I do and where do I go, because we're thinking about adoption, but we didn't know who to ask, or we didn't think it was possible. But, they saw Tony and I, just, a normal, average American family, be able to adopt, be able to accomplish that dream of having a baby. And people just really want to know that just normal people can do it. Yeah.
Great. I don't want to take up too much more of our evening tonight. And Kim, I know that for the families on the call tonight who aren't sure about taking that first step toward researching the possibilities through Lifetime, you can apply free online. It's lifetimeadoption.com/apply. And Kim, I know that you actually, for people who may not have heard it before, or even if you want to hear it again, that you wanted to give away another special webinar recording, which I think this is a good time to tie it in, because I'm getting a flood of feedback tonight about how great it is to hear from people like you, Della. And we want to continue to offer these for you. So please let us know if these stories help you, if they encourage you. But Kim, why don't you talk about how families can get a hold of a story we had a few months back.
Okay, so we did a webinar where we interviewed an adoptive mom, and she was sharing how she just made the decision to move from infertility to adoption. And, her name is Tanya. So I know after that webinar we got a flood of feedback saying that, that for some families it was exactly where they were, or that's exactly how they felt, and it really helped encourage them. So if you are interested in hearing that webinar, whether you're already with Lifetime or you're someone new that is kind of in that spot where you're trying to make those decisions. Email me and I will be glad to email you the link to that webinar. Her name is Tanya, so just email me, kim@lifetimeadoption.com, and tell me that you are requesting the recording of Tanya's webinar interview. And like Libby said, you know, the first step to exploring more about Lifetime would be to fill out your free application on our website, lifetimeadoption.com/apply. And there's really no obligation or anything when you apply. It's basically just opening the door to opportunity for us to learn about each other. That way, when you're getting, you know, when you have questions, we can look at your information and answer them specifically for you. And I know there were many questions that came in tonight that were more about the process and how to do this or when to do that. Email me and I'll be happy to give you some guidance on those things, kim@lifetimeadoption.com. Or you can call. I'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Call the office, 530-432-7373. Say you were on the webinar and you can ask for me, or you can see if there's another adoptive family coordinator that can speak with you for a few minutes and answer some of your questions. So we're here for you, and we want to make sure those all get answered, but we'd probably need a couple more hours to get to discuss every single question that came in. So please do reach out if there's something on your mind that you wanted to get answered.
And you know, keep in mind that this isn't going to be our last webinar ever. We have some amazing guests coming up in the next few weeks. I've even, as recent as last night, coordinated an upcoming webinar in November that's going to be a story between a birth mother and the adoptive mother of the adoptive family that she chose for her son 9 years ago, and the two of them will come on and share their relationship that has formed through open adoption. We also have another adoptive mom who will come on and just be talking about what it's like to have a very open adoption with her brand new baby's birth mother. And then pay attention too, because every month we offer 1 or 2 chances to have just an open question and answer time. So if you have questions and you're not ready yet to reach out to us personally, you can always bring some of those general questions back to our webinar question and answer times. There will be one for Lifetime families only, I think, if I'm looking, it'll be on the 17th, and you'll get information about that in your email. And then if you're not yet part of Lifetime's program, you can look for an invitation about another question and answer around the end of the month. I think it'll be the 23rd. And I just, again, want to thank Della. Thank you so much for all of these darling photos that you shared, and just for sharing your story candidly. I really feel like you touched a lot of people tonight just with your authenticity and your sincere heart for your experience, but also for what they're going through. So thank you so, so much.
Yes, Della, thank you for thank you for being available and having someone to take care of your little angel there while you're on with us. We so appreciate it, and I know the families here do too. Thank you.
Well, it's definitely amazing, you know, from listening to the webinars to being able to, you know, to give the hope, and you know, and like I said, anyone who has any questions, you know, definitely get in touch with Libby or Kim, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you through email.
Well, thank you, and thank you everyone for all of your participation. We had some great feedback. I even had a few people tell me how fun the polls were to take. So, you know, we'll continue to try and build these up and make these even more interactive so that you can really feel connected and like you're getting the help that you need. And thank you all for your questions. And those of you joining by phone, again, if you want a copy of that webinar that Kim offered earlier, just shoot us an email. And we wish you all a great evening. Thank you again so much for making time to be with us tonight, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, Libby. Bye-bye, Kim.
Good night.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Good night.